Good morning, everyone. Myself is Devi, Assistant Professor in the Department of Artificial Intelligence and Data Science. I am going to teach the subject Operating System and Cloud Basics. Today, we are going to discuss about the user versus system mode. First, we will see what is user mode. User mode is a non-privileged mode where user applications are run. User applications in the sense it may be a web browser or a word processor, etc. The user mode is also known as unprivileged mode, restricted mode, or slave mode. The user can run user level applications code such as browser, games, or text editor. The user can only limited access to the system resources to prevent accident or malicious damage. The user cannot directly interact with hardware or memory. With the help of the system call only, the user can access the system call request services from the kernel. If any crashes occur in the application mode, only the system application program will be crashed, not the whole system. As I told earlier, the user cannot access the hardware resources and memory directly. The process in the user mode have limited access to the system resources like memory and hardware. They cannot directly execute privileged instructions or access protected memory areas. The next one is transition. The user mode transitions to kernel mode when a user application is used to perform a privileged operation. This is typically done with the help of the system call, which act as an interface between the user space and the kernel space. Next, we will see what is system mode. The system mode is also known as kernel mode. System mode, also known as kernel mode, is the mode privileged execution mode where the operating system core components run. Kernel is also known as system mode, supervisor mode, privilege mode. The system mode in the sense it runs core operating system components like device driver, memory managers and schedulers. In the case of system mode, it can access to the hardware as well as memory and it can execute privileged instructions and manage system-wide operations. If any crash happens, it will lead to system failure. The privilege instruction should be executed in kernel mode. Let us see what is privilege. The kernel mode has unrestricted access to all system resources including memory, hardware and CPU instruction. Next we will see what is functionality. The kernel manages system resources, handles hardware interrupts and ensures the overall system stability and security of the system. The next diagram has given for transition. We will see what is transition. That is when the user process executes the user application in the user mode. When a trap or interrupt occurs, the hardware switches from the user mode to kernel mode. That is, they change the state of mode bit to 0. Thus, whenever the operating system gains control the computer, whenever a trap or interrupt occurs, the hardware switches from user mode to kernel mode. That is, changes the state of mode bit to 0. Thus, whenever the operating system gains control of the computer, it is in kernel mode. The system always switches to user mode by setting the mode bit to 1 before passing control to the user program. From this, we can say that the difference between the user mode and the kernel mode. In the user mode, the user can run the user application, whereas in the kernel mode, it manages system resources as well as ensuring system stability. In the case of user mode, there will be a limited access, but in the case of system mode, there is a full access to the hardware as well as system resources. That is, in the case of user mode, user cannot directly access hardware or memory. In the case of kernel mode, it can access hardware or memory. In the case of user mode, if any crash happens, it will affect the application program only. That is, in case of kernel mode, if any crash occurs, any crash in the application does not affect the system. It will affects only the application program in the user level. But in the case of system mode, a fault here can crash the entire operating system. In the case of user mode, it will be slightly slower than when comparing to the kernel mode. In kernel mode, it will be faster than the user mode. For example, for user mode is MS Word, web browser, etc. In the kernel mode, Windows kernel, Linux kernel. Thank you.